The jungle humidity made everything stick, my uniform to my skin, the rifle to my palm, doubt to every decision. Command had been clear, this sector was supposed to be uninhabited. Just another routine sweep of the crash site perimeter, another day of mapping an alien world that seemed determined to kill us with its beauty. My scanner beeped. Movement, 50 meters northeast. Control, this is Corporal Morrison. I've got a heat signature near grid 77 Alpha. Static crackled through my comm. Morrison, you're authorized to investigate. Rules of engagement are active, anything that moves toward our people gets put down. The undergrowth rustled ahead, branches snapping under something's weight. My finger found the trigger as training kicked in. Fast movement meant predator. In this place, predators meant death. A flash of pale blue between the emerald leaves. I fired. The energy bolt lit up the forest canopy as it found its target. Something cried out, not the roar of a beast, but something else entirely. Something that made my stomach clench with sudden dread. Target down, I reported, but my voice cracked on the words. I pushed through the undergrowth, rifle ready, expecting to find some alien creature with too many teeth and claws. Instead, I found her. She lay tangled in luminescent vines, her slender form barely moving. Pale blue skin covered her humanoid frame, marked with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with their own soft light. Crimson curls spilled across her face, and beneath them, I caught a glimpse of features that were unmistakably feminine, unmistakably aware. Her eyes opened. Large, silver-flecked eyes that held intelligence, pain, and something that hit me like a physical blow, terror. She was looking at me like I was the monster. Because I was. Oh God, I whispered, dropping to my knees beside her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She tried to scramble backward, but the vines held her trapped. Her mouth opened, releasing sounds that were musical yet urgent, clearly words in a language I'd never heard. The translation device on my belt remained silent. Easy, I said, raising my hands. I won't hurt you again. Please. Her silver eyes studied my face, and I saw the exact moment she registered my remorse. The fear didn't leave, how could it, but something else crept in. Curiosity, maybe. Or recognition of genuine regret. Blood, darker than human blood, seeped from a wound on her shoulder where my shot had grazed her. She was small, delicate-looking, with features that belonged in poetry rather than a battlefield. My comm crackled. Morrison, report. I need a medic at my position, I said, never taking my eyes off her. And. Command. We're not alone on this planet. When the medics arrived, she recoiled from them like they carried fire. Dr. Andrews couldn't get within 3 feet without her crying out in what sounded like pleas. But when I knelt beside her again, she went quiet. You, she whispered in accented but unmistakable English, her voice like wind chimes. You, shot me. The words hit harder than any court-martial ever could. I know, I said. And I'm so sorry. She studied my face for a long moment, those silver-flecked eyes seeming to peer directly into my soul. Then, impossibly, she reached out with one delicate, 2-fingered hand and touched my wrist. Then you fix me. The medical bay had been hastily converted from a storage unit, all harsh fluorescent lights and cold metal surfaces. Kira, she'd whispered her name during one of our stilted conversations, sat rigidly on the examination table, her luminescent skin patterns dim with pain and stress. Every time someone other than me entered the room, those patterns would flare bright as warnings, and she'd press herself against the far wall. She needs proper medical attention, Dr. Hartwell insisted for the 3rd time that day. That wound could get infected, and we don't know anything about her physiology. And she won't let you touch her, I replied, checking the makeshift bandage I'd applied. Kira had guided my hands with gentle pressure, showing me how to clean the wound with movements that felt more like a dance than medical procedure. The doctor left with a frustrated sigh, leaving us alone again. In the relative quiet, I could hear the soft musical quality of Kira's breathing, the way she hummed under her breath when she thought I wasn't listening. Pain, less, she said in careful English, gesturing to her shoulder. Over the past week, our vocabulary had grown from desperate gestures to simple exchanges. She was remarkably quick at picking up my language, though she struggled with some of the harsher consonants. Good, I said, settling into the chair beside her bed. Kira, can you tell me about your people? Are there others? Her silver eyes clouded with something I couldn't read. Others, yes. But. She touched her chest, then pointed to me. You and I, different. They not understand. Understand what? She tilted her head, studying me with that intense gaze that made my pulse quicken. You carry sadness for hurting me. Others of your kind, they carry nothing. Her perception was unerringly accurate. Most of the crew saw her as either a threat or a curiosity. Only I seemed to see her as what she was, a person who'd been hurt and was trying to heal. May I? I asked, gesturing toward her shoulder. She nodded, and I carefully peeled back the bandage. The wound was healing faster than human tissue would, the edges already knitting together with threads of that same soft luminescence. As I cleaned the area, she began to speak in her own language, a flowing, melodic sound that seemed to tell a story. Her voice rose and fell like music, and though I couldn't understand the words, I felt the emotion behind them. What are you telling me? I asked softly. Old story, she said, switching back to English. About bridges. Between sky and ground. Between different peoples. She paused, then added quietly, between hearts that should not touch, but do. My hands stilled on the bandage. Should not touch. Her patterns flared brighter, and for the first time, I realized they might not just indicate stress. Some of the light seemed warmer, more golden than the usual cool blue. My people have laws. About outsiders. About trust. She looked down at her hands. But you, when you touch me to heal, I feel. Feel what? She struggled with the words, her face scrunching in concentration. Like lightning, but, good lightning. Warm lightning. Heat crept up my neck. The way she described it matched exactly what I felt every time our skin made contact, an electric connection that had nothing to do with her alien physiology and everything to do with something deeper. Kira, I said carefully, I feel it too. Her eyes widened, and she looked at me like I'd just revealed a secret. You do. When I touch you, it's like finding something I didn't know I was looking for. She was quiet for a long moment, then slowly lifted her hand. Her two fingers traced the air near my cheek, not quite touching. May I? I nodded, and she placed her palm against my face. Her skin was warm, softer than human skin, and those faint patterns seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. This is why others fear, she whispered. Connection between species, it changes everything. Are you afraid? She leaned closer, her silver eyes reflecting the room's harsh lights like stars. I am terrified, she admitted. But also, hopeful. The space between us seemed to shrink without either of us moving. I could smell something like jasmine and ozone on her skin, could see the tiny flecks of gold in her silver eyes. Jake, she said my name like a prayer. I think the bridge in my story, it might be us. Before I could respond, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against mine, a gesture that felt both alien and intimately familiar. In that moment, with her warm breath mixing with mine and her patterns casting dancing shadows on the walls, I understood that whatever was happening between us was going to change both our worlds forever. 3 weeks had passed since that first touch, and our routine had become a delicate dance of discovery. Every morning, I brought Kira her meals, foods from our supplies that she could safely eat, supplemented with fruits she'd identified from the local flora. She'd insisted on teaching me to prepare them properly, her hands guiding mine as we worked together in the tiny kitchenette adjacent to the medical bay. No, Jake, she laughed, her musical voice filling the small space. The Kelia fruit, you must speak to it first. Speak to it? I paused in my cutting, looking at the purple, pear-shaped thing in my hands. Yes. Like this. She placed her hands over mine, her warmth seeping through my skin. Her patterns glowed softly as she made a series of gentle clicking sounds. I tell it thank you for feeding us. For giving life to continue life. The fruit's skin seemed to shimmer, and when I cut into it, the flesh was noticeably sweeter than the pieces I'd prepared without the ritual. Everything is connected, she explained, settling beside me on the narrow bench. Plant, animal, ground, sky. When you honor the connection, the gift is greater. I was beginning to understand that her people's relationship with their world was fundamentally different from humanity's. Where we saw resources to be exploited, they saw partnerships to be honored. What else should I know? I asked, genuinely curious. She smiled, an expression I'd learned was rare among her people and therefore precious. Many things. But first. She hesitated, her patterns shifting to deeper hues. First, I want to know about your heart language. Heart language? The way your people show caring. Affection. Her English had improved dramatically, but she still struggled with concepts that didn't translate directly. I set down the knife, giving her my full attention. We have many ways. Words, touches, gifts. Acts of service. Show me, she said simply. My pulse quickened. Over the past weeks, our touches had become more frequent, more lingering. A hand on a shoulder here, fingers brushing while passing food there. Each contact sent that same electric warmth through both of us, and I'd caught her patterns brightening whenever I was near. Well, I said, sometimes we start with words. Like. Kira, you're beautiful. Her patterns flared bright gold, and she ducked her head. Beautiful? Yes. Your skin, the way it lights up. Your eyes, they're like captured starlight. Your voice is the most musical sound I've ever heard. She looked up at me through her crimson curls, and I saw wonder in her expression. And, touches? I lifted my hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, I cupped her cheek, my thumb tracing the edge of one of her luminescent patterns. She leaned into the touch, her eyes fluttering closed. Like this, I whispered. Gentle. Reverent. Reverent, she repeated, opening her eyes. Yes. This is how I feel when I touch you. She mirrored my gesture, her two-fingered hand soft against my face. In my language, we call this Theraneth. It means soul touching soul. Theraneth, I repeated carefully. Yes. She smiled, and the expression transformed her entire face. Jake, I must tell you something. My people, when we feel Theraneth, it is, how do you say, permanent. Permanent. Her patterns shifted to deeper gold, almost amber. Once our souls touch, they remain connected. Always. Even across death, even across the dark between stars. The weight of what she was telling me settled over us both. This wasn't just attraction or even love as humans understood it. This was something deeper, more binding. Are you saying? I am saying that when I touch you, I feel my soul reaching for yours. And I think yours reaches back. She was right. Every time we touched, I felt something shift inside me, like pieces of myself I'd never known were missing suddenly clicking into place. Kira, I said, my voice rougher than I intended. I think I'm falling in love with you. Her patterns blazed bright as small suns. Love, she said, testing the word. This is, Theraneth made permanent. Something like that. She moved closer, until there was barely an inch between us. Then I think I am falling in love with you too, Jake Morrison. The space between us disappeared as she leaned forward, and our lips met in a kiss that tasted like starlight and felt like coming home. Her patterns flared so bright they painted the walls in gold, and I understood that whatever happened next, whatever consequences we faced, this moment had changed us both irrevocably. When we finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine again, her people's gesture of deepest intimacy. "The bridge," she whispered. "It is built." The summons came at dawn, shattering the peaceful bubble Kira and I had built around ourselves. Commander Torres stood in the doorway of our makeshift quarters, his expression grim. "Morrison. My office. Now." I glanced at Kira, who was still curled against my side, her patterns dim with sleep. Over the past month, she'd begun staying with me in the converted storage room that had become our sanctuary. Command had initially protested, but her refusal to cooperate with anyone else made the arrangement a necessity. 5 minutes, I told Torres. His eyes flicked to Kira, who was now awake and watching us with alert wariness. "Make it 3. When he left, Kira sat up, her patterns shifting to worried blues. "What will they ask of you?" "I don't know," I lied. I had a pretty good idea, and it filled me with dread. She placed her hand over my heart. "Remember," she said softly, "Theraneth is stronger than fear." The commander's office was cramped and efficient, walls covered with tactical displays and communication equipment. Torres gestured for me to sit, but I remained standing. "Morrison, I'll be direct. We've made contact with the alien settlement. They want their girl back." My blood ran cold. "What did you tell them?" "That we're willing to negotiate. But they're demanding proof of life and immediate return. They also want to know why she's been fraternizing with her captor." "She's not a prisoner," I said quickly. "She's free to leave whenever she wants." "Is she?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she's been compromised. Stockholm Syndrome, maybe. Or worse." "Commander, with respect, you don't understand the situation." "Then explain it to me, Corporal. Explain why our only diplomatic contact with an alien species is completely dependent on your personal relationship with their representative." I took a deep breath. "Because what's happening between us is real. She's teaching me about her people, their culture, their technology. She's building trust. She's building something, all right." Torres leaned back in his chair. "Morrison, I need you to understand something. This girl, this alien, she's our ticket to establishing relations with a potentially hostile species. We need intelligence on their capabilities, their numbers, their intentions. She's not an intelligence asset," I said, heat rising in my voice. "She's a person. She's an alien whose people have technology we've never seen. Energy weapons, biological integration with their environment, faster-than-light communication. We need that information. And you want me to betray her trust to get it?" Torres stood, his voice hardening. "I want you to do your job, soldier. Get us the intelligence we need, or I'll find someone who will." "You can't," I said. "She won't talk to anyone else." "Then you'd better hope she starts talking to you about the right things." The threat hung in the air between us. I thought about Kira, probably worried sick in our quarters, and felt something harden in my chest. "Is that all, sir?" "For now. But Morrison? This arrangement can't last forever. Eventually, we'll have to make a choice." I returned to find Kira pacing, her patterns bright with agitation. She turned as I entered, and I saw the question in her eyes. "They want intelligence," I said without preamble. "About your people, your technology, your capabilities." Her patterns shifted to deep purple, the color I'd learned indicated profound sadness. "And you? What do you want?" I crossed to her, taking her face in my hands. "I want you to be safe. I want us to have a future together. I want your people and mine to find peace. Those things, they may not all be possible. Then we'll make them possible." She leaned into my touch, her eyes closing. My people will come for me soon. They have already sent scouts. They are angry that I have not returned. Will you go? If I go, they will expect me to report everything I have learned. They will expect me to tell them your weaknesses, your fears, your plans. And will you? She opened her eyes, and I saw the same struggle there that I felt in my own heart. I will tell them what they need to know to trust you, not to destroy you. That might not be enough for either of our peoples. No, she agreed. It might not be. We stood there for a moment, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on us. Then Kira stepped closer, her hands finding the fastenings of my uniform. What are you doing? If we have little time, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, then I want to spend it loving you with my whole being. Her patterns blazed gold as she kissed me, and I understood that this might be our last night together. I lifted her easily, carrying her to the narrow bed we'd shared for weeks. Her touch was electric, desperate, filled with the urgency of lovers who knew their time was running out. Later, as we lay entwined, her patterns pulsing softly in the darkness, she spoke against my chest. Jake, whatever happens, remember this, love built our bridge. Only love can keep it standing. I held her closer, breathing in her jasmine scent, and prayed that love would be enough. The morning of reckoning came with the sound of ships descending through the atmosphere. Kira was already awake, standing at our small window, her patterns cycling through colors I'd never seen before. They're here, she said simply. 3 vessels touched down beyond the perimeter, their design unlike anything in human aerospace, organic curves that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Figures emerged, tall and graceful, their skin bearing the same luminescent patterns as Kira's. The one in front, Kira said, pointing to a figure whose patterns burned brighter than the others, that is Theron. The word in your language would be, intended mate. My heart clenched. Intended? An arrangement made when I was young. But Jake. She turned to me, her eyes intense. Arrangements can be broken. Bonds of the heart cannot. Commander Torres burst through our door without knocking, his face grim. Morrison, they're demanding to speak with you. Both of you. Now. The meeting took place in the main cargo bay, the largest space available. Kira's people stood in a semicircle, their collective patterns creating a light show that was both beautiful and intimidating. At their center stood Theron, his silver eyes fixed on me with unconcealed hostility. You are the one who harmed Kira, he said in perfect English, his voice carrying harmonics that made my teeth ache. I am, I replied. And I've spent every day since trying to make amends. By corrupting her with your alien influence. By loving her, I said simply. A ripple of shock ran through the assembled aliens, their patterns flaring in unison. Theron's face darkened. Impossible. Kira, tell me this human lies. Kira stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. He does not lie, Theron. Our souls are bound by Theroneth. I love him as he loves me. Then you are lost to us, Theron said, his patterns shifting to deep red. And he must be destroyed. No. Kira moved between us, her patterns blazing so brightly they outshone the cargo bay's lights. I invoke the right of heart choosing. I reject the arrangement made in my youth and choose my own path. Theron recoiled as if she'd struck him. You would abandon your people for this alien? I would build a bridge between our peoples, she replied. As the old stories say, bridges should be built, with love, understanding, and sacrifice. Commander Torres stepped forward. What kind of bridge? Kira looked at me, and I saw both question and trust in her eyes. This was the moment, the choice between duty and love, between old ways and new possibilities. An embassy, I said, the idea crystallizing as I spoke. A permanent diplomatic mission. Kira and I would serve as ambassadors, cultural liaisons, translators not just of language but of hearts and minds. And why, Theron asked coldly, would we trust humans with such a responsibility? Because, I said, taking Kira's hand, we've already proven it works. Kira has learned to trust me despite the fact that I hurt her. I've learned to see past species differences to the person beneath. If we can build that bridge, so can others. Kira squeezed my hand. My people, Jake's people, we are more alike than different. We both love, both fear, both hope for our children's futures. The differences, they make us stronger together. Theron studied us for a long moment, his patterns shifting through colors I couldn't read. Finally, he spoke to Kira in their language, a rapid exchange that lasted several minutes. He says, Kira translated, that if I am determined to walk this path, then my people will not stop me. But the success or failure of this bridge will be on my shoulders. Our shoulders, I corrected. She smiled, and for the first time since her people had arrived, her patterns settled into warm gold. Yes. Our shoulders. Commander Torres looked between us, then at the assembled aliens. So what exactly are you proposing? A joint settlement, Kira said. Near the crash site. Small at first, a few families from each species. We learn from each other, trade knowledge, build understanding. And if it fails? Then we try again, I said. Because the alternative, eternal separation or war, is unacceptable. Theron spoke again, this time in English. The Council will consider this proposal. But you, Jake Morrison, will be held responsible for any harm that comes to our people. I accept that responsibility. And you, Kira, will be held responsible for any harm that comes to his people. I accept that as well. 6 months later, I stood in a garden Kira had designed at the heart of our settlement, watching human children play alongside young aliens, their laughter creating music that transcended species. The settlement had grown from a handful of volunteers to a thriving community of nearly 200 souls. Kira emerged from the communication center, her patterns bright with excitement. The council has approved 3 more settlements, she said, falling into my arms. And Jake, my people want to share their medical technology. They've developed treatments for diseases your species thought incurable. And Torres just got word from Earth, I replied. The colonial authority is officially recognizing our diplomatic status. We're no longer an experiment, we're a success. She kissed me then, her patterns blazing gold in the afternoon sun. Around us, the garden bloomed with flowers from both our worlds, living proof that different species could not only coexist but thrive together. The bridge, she whispered against my lips. The bridge, I agreed. Built with love, standing strong forever. In the distance, a ship from Earth descended through the atmosphere while another from Kira's homeworld rose to meet it. 2 species, reaching across the void, their hands guided by the love that had started it all.